a little biblical perspective, folks. My name is Nate Taylor. I'm one of the co-hosts here, along with Steve, who's not with me at the moment. But I just wanted to address some stuff that I saw on the internet here recently. I have a former coworker who is turned into a very vociferous atheist, and he's posted on his page this meme. It's pretty interesting. It says, um, and the burning bush said to Moses, seek psychiatric help. You're talking to a plant. And so this is kind of presented as a jab against Christianity, and it's promoted as an idea to essentially dismiss miracles. And I find this pretty interesting, and also maybe even deceptive in some ways, because it's the atheist that assumes that they're holding the scientific high ground, that they're only moving forward with things that they can taste, see, touch, smell, and hear. The observable things that can be tested, that can be demonstrated, that can be perceived because it's science, right? So they're taking this position that, well, we're the people on the side of science, and you guys are the buffoons that are only acting in faith. What's super interesting is that then they post a meme like this, and what they're essentially saying is even if God came down to me, if God presented himself in front of me in a miraculous format, I would deny it. Even if I could perceive it with my five senses, I would deny its existence anyway. And so what they've done is they've demonstrated an a priori rejection of the miraculous. They've presented an a priori rejection of God, and it's not scientific at all. In fact, it's sheer bias against God, and it also demonstrates that it's a hard issue, right? People reject God because they don't want accountability for what they do. They want to be able to view themselves as God, the determiners of right and wrong. They establish their own destiny. They're recreating their own history. Where I came from. They're coming up with all these, adopting struggles of other people in the past, and then they're coming up with their own meaning, right? I get to establish my own meaning. And so, this is a worldview that's centered on themselves. It's called meism or selfism, and they view themselves as God. And so just a proposition of another being that's greater than them, that is going to dictate their actions, what they do, give them their history, their story of their origins, tell them what their future is going to look like, based on where they stand with that being God. It's offensive to them. And so they are crafty in coming up with ways to try to make themselves look smart. Like, if I'm going to reject this idea of God, I can't just look like somebody who's evil or just self-absorbed. So I'm going to adopt science and say, well, I'm doing this on intellectual basis, and realistically it's all fluff. There's no intellectual basis for it at all. We see this not just with memes like this, but, they say, well, if I just had enough evidence, I would just believe, exclude the Bible, don't give me the Bible because that's just your belief system. Get rid of that and then prove to me Jesus. And it's like, well, the Bible is specifically the Gospels themselves are a testament of Jesus, and their eyewitness testimony. Matthew is eyewitness testimony that he himself put together. Mark is eyewitness testimony, scribe noted down by Mark, the lessons that were taught from Peter. So Peter's eyewitness testimony. Luke, I should say, well, skip Luke for now. We'll go to John. John is eyewitness testimony that he saw. Luke is multiple people's eyewitness testimonies. Luke went around and created an orderly account from all the people that witnessed it, and he put it together. So the Gospels themselves are evidences, eyewitness testimony that was written about what happened. And so what they're saying, and the church went through the hard work of putting these things together, documenting them down, maintaining them for 2,000 plus years now. And now what we get is, well, excluding all the evidence for Jesus, prove to me Jesus. That's essentially what the question is. Exclude to me, should I say, all the best evidences that are available for Jesus, which is eyewitness testimony, because there weren't camcorders, there weren't, the archaeological support is there, but that's not going to be as good as eyewitness testimony. The historians of the day, like Josephus and Tacitus, they make references to Jesus as well, but that's not eyewitness testimony. So they're saying, get rid of the best testimony, the best evidences you possibly can for Jesus, and then prove to me Jesus. That again, it betrays an a priori rejection of who Jesus is. The Bible says in Romans 1:18-21, it says, the wrath of God is revealed against from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men, talking about these very people that reject God, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth. For what can be known about God is plain to them, because God has shown it to them. For his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power, his divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world and all things that have been made, so they are without excuse. The Greek word there is unapologetus. It means that no one's going to even have a reasoned defense for why they've rejected God. And it says here that it says, for although they knew God, they did not honor him as God or give thanks to him, but they became futile in their thinking, and their foolish hearts were darkened. And so that's what we see with the people that are making these memes and things. Their foolish hearts are darkened because God has given them over to that. God is, because they have rejected him, they've become futile in their thinking. Their foolish hearts are darkened, and they are haters of the truth. These people are not neutral. This idea that atheists are just, we just need enough evidence. If you just gave me the evidence, then I would be on board with it. That's just a facade. That is absolute garbage. There's no such thing as an atheist. The scriptures here says that everyone knows that there is a creator. It's blatantly obvious from the things that are outside. If I walked up onto a laptop on the ground and I said, hey, that thing just came from time plus matter plus chance, you would think I was an idiot. It's blatantly obvious that that was created, that it didn't just happen by happenstance, by some accident of cosmos. But our DNA is far more complex than even that laptop, but yet we're supposed to somehow believe that someone can look at existence, not just my DNA, but the DNA of everything that exists, as well as the elements, the cosmos, the stars as we see them, and say, this just happened. It's blatantly obvious that it didn't happen. God says that these guys are liars, and they need Jesus, right? And so this should shape the way that we do our evangelism. This idea that I just need to provide these guys enough evidence. That's not necessarily true. Sure, we can use evidences, because the scriptures say also that we should destroy, we should demolish arguments that are raised up against the name of God. And so with our apologetics, we should be simply smashing ideas that run contrary to the truth of God because they defame his name. But it doesn't say that we're winning people over to Jesus with our arguments. The Bible says specifically in Romans 1, just prior to what we just read in Romans 1:16, it says the gospel is the power of God for salvation. And so it's important to know that while we're out here defending the gospel, smashing, destroying arguments that are raised up against the knowledge of God, that we're really getting whatever is propped up as a proposed objection out of the way to be able to deliver the gospel, the truth of who God is. And so with that, I'm going to close this out. I just want you guys to know that I plan to do far more of these, and have a good day.